you don't have the action economy to do everything that you're asked to do. And
The webway has finally brought you here. Behold, forge the narrative.
hello, everyone. Welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy. We are Lost Souls Podcast. I'm joined by Tanya Gates.
Hi, everybody.
And Adam Camilleri.
G'day. I just had a haircut trying to figure out if it looks good enough to not wear the hat. Decided
I like
against it.
showing it off a little bit and then putting it back on. That's you could look. We got 3 segments we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about some of the new models that have come out, some of the new detachments, some of the things. Well, I should say come out. You've been previewed on the Warhammer community side of things that are going up for pre-order. Then in the next segment, we're going to be talking about the top 5 changes to the game that happened over the last couple of days from when we're recording this, and then we're going to close out the hobby segment. So you'll see those occur, as different videos on the YouTube channel, but you also just hear as one continuous thing. If you look, welcome everybody to the show. There is a lot happening. So I'm just gonna say it. Mutilators, used to look ridiculous.
And they were fine cast, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they were, right? But
they were pewter into fine cast.
And then they disappeared, and now there's been some new models previewed, and I'm excited for that because they look pretty cool.
And they're not fine cast.
Well,
I think they look amazing. I've already got mates who love obliterators, but like these more, and are going to convert these into their obliterators as well. So this is how much some people are really into the new sculpts.
I like they're very dynamic. They look bestial. They look like they are, do what they're supposed to do instead of doing the speed walk or whatever towards you. They look awesome. But in the same vein, look, we're going to talk about Chaos for a little bit. Then we're going to talk about some Aeldari. Then we'll talk about a lot of stuff happening.
Well,
the Defiler, we saw that model get previewed, and another winner as far as that goes. But to me, it looks like it's a different warped organism than the original Defiler to me.
Yeah.
Now it's still got all the same DNA there, as far as like what it looks like, but it looks distinctly like something that has evolved from a different thing to me.
Yeah, the first thing I thought when I looked at it, it was like it looks much more like a scaled up Venom crawler, like this Pokemon evolved from a Venom crawler. This is the Nidoking to the Nidoran, and it looks amazing. And pour one out for old Deafy. Old Deafy was very long in the tooth. Detach and move on, because this model is spectacular.
I really like that it brings the Defiler up into the same design space as all of the other demon engines in the line now, right? It looks like it belongs beside a Hellbrute. It looks like it belongs beside a Mauler Fiend, that kind of thing. So I really dig it.
So the few pieces of criticism that I've seen about this sculpt is that it doesn't look like a demon engine. It looks like a flesh warped construct more than like a demon engine. And I asked those people, when was the last? So they're like, it looks more like the new Hellbrute sculpt and the Venom crawler like kind of line of thing design, rather than the Mauler Fiend, Forge Fiend, and Helldrake. And I asked them, how old is that Mauler Fiend and Helldrake sculpts now? Because you think they're probably like 5, 6, 7 years old. Those things are old. They are like
at least a decade,
15 years now. Things have kind of moved on a little bit since then, and they can do much more interesting and dynamic things. So,
what about them doesn't belong in the same design space, though? I wonder. Like, it's metallic bits on a fleshy kind of body.
Yeah, whereas the Mauler Fiend, Helldrake, and that were purely a metal body with a demon jammed into it, was the idea. Like, it was an engine, and they jammed a demon into it, a la demon engine. But this feels more like a fell fusion of technology and flesh.
I see.
I kind of see this as something that was like maybe a giant walker of some kind that has been possessed by something that is manifesting itself as flesh but isn't.
Yeah, I freaking adore it. And all the head options as well. All the gun options looked sick. The claws, like, my God, like even for just for chaos, this is a freaking home run. But I'm already mulling over conversion opportunities because I've got some orc mates that are just like that. That's one of the best kits I've seen for orc bits because those claws look so good.
I'm not sure I'm going off of like some like Facebook comments and stuff, but it looks like maybe the other legions might get to be able to take this as well.
Yeah, almost definitely. I'd assume because the Defiler's in a fair few of. Actually, let me double check. Actually, because I'm not sure Empress. I don't think Empress Children has access to it, but I know World Eaters have access to it. So that's an interesting distinction.
So again, don't quote me on that. Don't know for sure. I'm looking at Facebook comments and that kind of stuff, but it feels like this is going to be a welcome addition. Like, and if you haven't scrolled through and seen all like the side view and the back profile and that kind of stuff, like it looks tough. Like,
yes. So right now in the game, yeah, Death Guard, World Eaters, Chaos Space Marines, and Thousand Suns can all take Defilers. So it's only Empress Children that cannot.
However, there is an Emperor's Children-esque head.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I just again looking at comments and stuff, but this is something that I felt does like if you were on the fence of getting a Defiler before, you know, this may push you over to.
Well, I know a lot of newer players who've joined the game in what I call the modern era since 8th edition onwards, who look at some who you know, they're buying brand new sculpts that have come out in the last like 5 years, and then they look at some of these, you know, antiquities, antiques of days of yore, and they're like, not sure I can put that next to these guys. Whereas people who've been in the game for 20 years, they already have them. It wasn't really much of a thing. But now, no excuse. Get your
Yeah. So mutilators, defilers, and I know we've talked about the Corsairs and stuff before, but I think this is like, and then all the stuff we've seen for Iron Warriors. This is shaping up to at least be a pretty chaotic year.
The first quarter of chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dude, Huron looks so good. The Masters of Nostrum are fantastic. The new Corsair models are spectacular. I adore them so much. But I want to speak a little bit about the Aeldari models, which aren't getting anywhere near as much hype as of course Hurons, like people have been for a very long time. And Uriel hasn't been gone long, and now Uriel's back. And not only is he back, he's bringing along a bunch of really interesting sculpts. Some of the people are already losing their minds over the Corsair helmets. They think they're just some of the best designed Aeldari helmets that they've ever been. They look so spectacular. They just want to jam them on entire Dark Eldar armies, all sorts of other nonsense, which I'm all here for. But we are eating good at the moment in the world of Warhammer.
No kidding there. I'm actually looking at some of the models right now as well. They do look fantastic. Those kits come with a ton of bits, I can tell you that as well. So you're going to be able to use those and mix and match those heads however you want. I think if you wanted to theme out an entire like Eldritch Raiders force, you'll have plenty of things to do that with. Uriel has also a couple different head options, and the new named Farseer character, also spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And Uriel's spectacular. Of course, the OG is, of course, the helmetless, but the helmet is wow. I'm here for it.
Those are going to go up for pre-order by the time you're hearing this as well, and it's going to be a 2-week pre-order. So, if you are on the fence to get them, this is a good time to jump on. If you'd like them, I can tell you those. I said the kits for the jump troops come with a ton of bits and parts for you to kind of customize. Very similar to they're kind of a cross between Swooping Hawks and Scourges.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. And I actually think having seen the rules, they're actually really good. I wouldn't say go get 30 straight away, but chucking a unit of 10 in your army and seeing how you like it, I think it's a really good flexible.
I think, well, it also gives you more options to do some of these things. Let's talk about them. Actually, let's talk about we can go in. We talked about the models. Let's talk about what they could do.
So Corsair Sky Reavers move 12, but like all Corsair models, they scout 7. So if you go first, that is a 19-inch. Just did it. I just did a 19-inch move. Actually, they come with all the Aeldari packages of shenanigery, which you can always expect. They have a slew of good gun options, but they come default with their Corsair blades, which is 3 attacks at 4-2-1, which is actually a fairly decent profile for Aeldari as a baseline when you're not an aspect. You can take your pick of blasters, blast pistols, flamers, fusion guns, neurodisruptors, shredders, and shuriken pistols, and which gives you an idea of the identity of the unit, as it is like that tweener. It's half Drakari, half Aeldari, and there's a little sprinkle of Harlequin in there. But the datasheet rule, raid and run, is where I think the buy-in is here. So at the end of the fight phase, if this unit was eligible to fight this phase and is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, you can make a normal move of D3+3. Otherwise, if this unit was eligible to fight this phase, it can make a fallback move of D3. So if you hit something and you don't kill them, and they don't kill you back, you can still back out of combat D3+3. Otherwise, if you hit something, kill it, you can move on D3+3. They are extremely good and flexible for going and flipping and contesting primary points, and that's what I love them for. Just you can do a little bit of a jail play, a little bit of wall off play, and control your opponent, because of course this is a 10 model unit. And like I said, it moves infinity on turn one. It just goes. So if you want to control your opponent, they got some Catan, they got some vehicles you want to keep out of the firing lanes. These guys will just do that job. They are pretty flimsy. They're pretty much a guardsman. They're toughness 3 with a 5-up, no invuln. They are literally a guardsman. So do not expect them to hold up for very long, but it's a lightly armored Swift. But yeah, I think they're spectacular. A single unit of 10, I think, will make a lot of it.
We've also talked about Karseth. That's the psychic character in here. That's, again, I can't talk about cool things about the model. I could see myself using this model as just a Farseer. Like it's just that cool looking. Has the abilities of Aether Sense. Enemy units that are set up on the battlefield from reserves cannot be set up within 12 inches of this model.
Awesome.
Yeah, always a winning ability, no matter what. Fury of the Void. In your shooting phase, after this model's unit has shot, select one enemy unit hit by one or more attacks made with this model's dread of the Deep Void. Until the end of the turn, that unit is riven. Each time an Aeldari model from your army makes an attack that targets a riven unit, add 1 to the strength characteristic of that attack. That Dread of the Deep Void is a 24-inch range, anti-imagery 2+ blast. Hazardous, ignores cover, and psychic. Hits on 3s, strength 3, neg 2, AP 1 damage. But you just got to get hit by that to get the ability.
D6+2 blast as well. So if shooting at 5 models, it's minimum 4 shots to just get 1 3+, in order to give your entire rest of your army +1 strength. Do you know who else has a similar ability and is an auto take? And they could up the points every 3 months for the next year and still be an auto take? Lycus. This is Lycus light, and sometimes +1 strength is just +1 to wound.
Why not have both? You can take both.
I think you will. I think you absolutely will. There's kind of no reason not to. And this guy is spectacularly good. Once again, Scout 7 and Move 7. So if you want to shoot something turn 1, if you go first, chances are you will.
Yeah, that's strong. So the Raiders too, they have some cool detachment abilities that are somewhat unique to them. I don't know if you want to dive into that a little bit with how you buy your enhancements and things.
Yeah, so the Aeldari side of the enhancements, we've got 2 detachments, and the Aeldari side of the enhancements of both the detachments are very unique. Now we're on FAQ watch for a little bit of this, because there's 2 unique characters in this army, in this subfaction for the Wraith, which is the keyword that they get. So there's 2 special characters, no generic characters. So the enhancements are actually designed to go on units. Now, where we are on FAQ watch is because there specifically states an enhancement that you can take on Prince Uriel. You have to beg the question, does that mean I can take any of these on Prince Uriel? Or is it just they say? If it says Wraith character, does that mean you can take it on Uriel and Karseth, or can you not take it at all? So FAQ watch there is some great potential here for little Death Stars, as we would know them. They're not going to kill the world. They're not going to do what Calgar and 6 Victrix Guard are doing. But for Aeldari, they are going to be very, very, where if you can take an enhancement on the special character and then put that character with a unit that also has an enhancement, you have some very powerful things like Lance. Things like Vect Aura, which is the Master of Deceit, expend an extra command point within 12 if they're trying to the armor or anything like that. So there's some really good combo pieces here. In addition to one of my favorite ones, which is -1 OC, which I believe is best suited to go on that unit of Jumpy Boys we just talked about when they go and try and steal your opponent's primary. And that is just a very, very good little play for a couple of there to upgrade that unit in order to let it do what it already wants to do, but that much better. So it's a very unique way of doing it. Your units aren't that durable if you're just going to put it on a unit of like 10 toughness 3 wounds. You get what you get. You're playing Eldar. Things are going to die. But if you can make mileage out of them, some very, very powerful ability.
I like that. A special rule feels cool on them because like every unit is kind of special in some way, that they are a character in and of themselves. They're the specialized force that can fit within the Aeldari faction pretty well. Actually, I like this kind of in between Harlequin, Dark Eldar, Jakari, Yanari, Aeldari. These guys like all fit as like different aspects of that massive mega faction.
Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you should go out and buy 4 of these battle forces in order to make an entire army of Corsairs. I'm not going to tell you not to do that either. But I think the best meld is to take a package of Corsairs in your Aeldari good stuff army. But these detachments are good. Like, there is a detachment rule that is just sticky objectives. And then when your opponent tries to take back an objective that is sticky, on a 2+ they take D3 mortal wound. You're telling me my detachment rule might just be like doing 15 to like 20 mortal wounds to my opponent across the game. Seems good. Good. And when the other one is like advance and charge, seems good. That's the other detachment rule. It's just like, oh, cool. I just advance and charge. I just advance and do it one on Eldar on units that all scout 7 and 7 or like that is just turn 1 charge bait if I ever saw it.
So speaking of getting the box set, or if you want to pre-order, it is the first place get the new Venom kit. Sorry, Viper kit.
Viper. Yeah.
Which is the dual kit for the Starfang. The Starfang is the new Eldritch Raider.
Yes. So it's like it's pretty much somewhere between a Venom, a Viper, and is it a Starweaver? It's not a transport. What's the gunboat one of Harlequins? Somewhere between all those. Voidweaver. That sounds correct. Something weave. It's like a Baneblade. You just say void and weave and some other adjective, maybe chuck a noun in there, whisk it all up in a big pile. You'll get there. This model is very good, by the way. This Starfang is very good. Once again, Scouts 7, moves 14. 21 inch.
Where do you want to be?
21-inch turn 1 move. Comes with a disintegrator cannon from Drukhari. So assault on that. 3 shots at 632. Fantastic Astartes killing profile. And then it just has D3 blast, more assault shots at exactly the same profile. Like, so they were just like, hey, it was good on the first one. Let's do D3 of them more. So, this thing against, 5 scouts or 5 averages 6 shots at 632 and is OC2. So on average, one of these will go out and contest an objective from a unit of 5, OC2 models, because on average you will kill 3 to 4 of them, and then your OC2, their OC2, and the job is done. And they're quite cheap. If I remember correctly, I think they're 75 points, and they can come in units of 2 if you so wish. And I think they're very good. Think about how good piranhas are for Tau. That's pretty much what we're cooking with here. And they're on a similar wavelength. I think they're a very good skirmishing unit, and kind of annoying to remove at toughness 6 with 6 wounds. Notably, no invuln, and I think that's a very interesting distinction between the Drukhari, the Aeldari, the Harlequins. These guys are the ones that get all the scout and are even more fasty, swifty goodness, but they're lacking all the invulns. So whether that comes back to be a big issue down the road, we'll have to wait.
Hallucinating grenades are the special rule on this. At the start of your opponent's shooting phase, the unit can use this ability. If it does, select 1 Aeldari infantry unit from your army, visible to and within 36 inches of this unit until the end of the phase. That unit has the stealth ability. Now, I want to point out this is Aeldari infantry. It is not Anrath model, which is what the Eldritch Raiders are. So you can target any Aeldari unit,
Wolf Spiders,
in your army,
Striking Scorpions, Jane Zara and Howling Banshees, all these things. And it's 36 inches. It's like I'm on your expansion objective, and I'm going to point at my one right down the line. It's 26 plus inches away, and be like,
it isn't in your opponent's shooting phase when this happens, and so like you had to kind of plan a little bit to get there.
Yeah.
But even if they target like this model, they can still do this ability, and then before it's vaporized.
Yeah, it's a good timing and a bad timing. It's a good timing in that you get to see where they're moving to line up their shots before you pick where you're going to put the ability. But you're right, it's the bad time. It's got just as much of a downside on that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I'm really excited. This is an area of the faction of the Aeldari that I like as well. Like it's not my craft world that I would normally gravitate to, but it doesn't have to be. It seems to fit right in there, and it's the cool thing is their abilities do work on the entire faction. It's not necessarily just a niche thing.
I have one thing left to say. We, the representatives of Fortune Narrative and the community, humbly express our desire for Exodites.
When I was listing all the other sub factions within the Aeldari, I was thinking like there's like one left, right? You know,
they've got one. They've literally got one ideology that doesn't have a subfaction.
I am generally like not into Eldar at all, but I love dinosaurs. So if we could make that happen, I would
Yes.
probably buy in. Just saying.
I'd be all up on that. I'd be immediate windmill slam, take my money. And so I know so many other people who would also like, yeah.
Look, we got so much stuff with the what is right now. It is, of course, fun to live in speculation and wish list land, but there's some cool stuff coming out. And if this is your jam with the Eldari or Aeldari fan, you've already got your army. This is a nice pickup, I think, because you could take just a little bit of it in your force and still pass it out to the rest of your army if you've got it. So, okay, we're going to take a break. If you listen to the podcast, just hold tight from our sponsors, and we'll jump right in the rest of the show. If you are on YouTube, look for the next video. We'll see you in a minute.
Boy.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Hey everybody, we are back for this week. Going to be talking about the top 5 changes in Warhammer 40,000 this week. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good, mates. Cannot wait to talk about the new changes that just came in. We've got new detachments all over the place. I don't think anybody had a new Orc detachment or a new Voten detachment on their bingo card for this release, but they are here. And in addition, so who can be unhappy about more good stuff? But we're here to talk about the top 5 changes you need to know after the runoff of all of these things. I'm going to start off with the elephant in the room. We're going to start off with the only negative one, and then it's just going to be positive for the next. But number 1 on the list, things you need to know, Catan didn't change. Necrons are unchanged from this.
That means the Catan out there being kind of powerhouses, you know, and then taking it en masse. It's like a Catan convention on certain tables out there.
So we saw this happen with the Victrix Guard meta when they came out of 4 wounds at a very cheap price point. The entire game revolved around solving that problem. They became the center of the meta solar system, so to speak, and we all orbited around our ability to deal with that problem. That's Catan right now. Catan are the you must be this tall to win breakpoint of the game. They're hitting everybody with a stat check that is of a level we haven't seen since Imperial Knights were all over the tables about 7-8 months ago, and they're bringing a bunch of other stuff in good utility units as well. Like you've just got the Silent King, Necrosaur Amintar, and like 3 Catan on the table at the same time. So they are unchanged. So you need to have a Catan plan.
And it got a little bit harder for certain other detachments out there to deal with them too. So, you know, so they will be.
My hot tip, and we've already seen this happening in this developmental stage of the meta circling around Catan, happening a lot in teams events, where instead of taking things that kill Catan, because if you take things that kill Catan, no one, I don't think anybody in the game says, I 100% every time kill 2 Catan in a turn. Nobody gets to say that. Probably can kill one and a bit. If you're very lucky, you get the second one. And that's what you need to be able to do in order to think you're going to win that game, because the Silent King steps out, kills the things that kill the Catan, and you probably can't do it again. So people are going the other way. They're leaning more into taking more stuff and more OC than a Catan can reasonably expect to kill. We're seeing things like Crude Hunting Pack coming back into vogue. Very exciting to see. Recon Guard, Green Tide Orcs. These horde lists are coming in that just have so much freaking OC and bodies with an invuln or some other tricks and tools like a Feel No Pain to get them through the sweep attacks of Catan. And then they're just like, lol, 40 OC on 20 bodies with 2 characters on an objective.
You just need a turn and a half to sometimes make an impact with all that OC.
Yep. Well, you can kill me. You can kill as much of me as you like, but you're not going to get any points. And if I can stop you from scoring for 2 turns, I might get. The other way to go about it is to go so wide that you use a thing called activation. So an activation lock is having more units in position to score points than they have attacks and shots to kill you. And Catan don't, like, from shooting wise, they don't like kill 5 aspect warriors, for example, or they don't, necessarily, kill 5 Cabalite warriors, for example, every time. And if they take a Catan to kill 5 Cabalite warriors instead of going for a Ravager, a Talos, something of a higher value, because you're going to flip the primary on them, freaking win. Absolutely.
The action economy, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a huge thing. It's like there's time when you don't have the action economy to do everything that you're asked to do in a turn, and that is typically when you're sunk.
So you stretch them too thin, that they can't fight you on the scoreboard. And so we're seeing Drukhari and Aeldari starting to pivot into that fashion. There's a bunch of other armies that can do it as well. There's actually some very spicy Votan builds that are going heavy MSU that I've seen that I think could probably do this job as well. You have to let go of your land fortresses. I know your hearts will break, but you'll score more points and you'll be happy about it at the end of the day. Number 2 on the list, now that one is out of the way, CSM are back, baby. Absolutely back. They got 2 new detachments and some fantastic new models. Can't wait to see what the Mutilators and the Defiler do to this as well, depending on what their rules are. But Huron Blackheart, I'm unfortunately going to say, is not the best part of the model release. The best part of the model release are the Masters of the Maelstrom. You now have the full agency. If you want to make a full ball CSM Death Star, 10 Chosen, Masters of the Maelstrom, and Huron kills anything in the game. It will die, though. And that's the difference. It's not like, we used to have 10 custodies in a unit, stuff like that, 4-up invulns, reactive moves, fight first, all that nonsense at the start of the edition. It's not quite that. But CSM have been begging for a unit that will get them respect on the table, because we've seen a lot of creations of bile stuff. They're just throwing massed strength 5 AP 1-2 damage attacks and hoping that they pop off on the Devil Wound side of it. It's not getting the job done. Extremely good at trading units, but we're seeing things like Massed Custodian Guard, Blood Angels, Empress Children even, or even now the Catan that can just kind of bully CSM. So we're going to see a bit of a changing of the guard here. And now the tip I have for all the CSM players out there, don't treat your list construction like CSM when you're constructing the new Huron detachment, especially the Renegade Warband. Which I think
listen to this.
More powerful. You have to treat it like it's a Space Marines army. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you deeply, but that you can make a damn good Chaos Space Marines list that is just like Astartes, Adeptus Astartes. That's how you have to think about it and construct it. Let go of the pacts and be like, well, Oath is still pretty freaking good. I get Assault, I get Advance and Charge for a Battle Shock test, etc., etc. And I have Gilliman on a stick. Yes, that enhancement is 60 points. Yes, it is still worth it. Cannot wait to see what happens there. But Huron and the Masters of the Maelstrom, especially the Masters of the Maelstrom, I think can go in every single gosh diggity darn list for CSM. I don't think they're wrong detachment to take that one. You can just windmill slam that unit in. I believe it is bordering on auto take. Cannot wait to see what that one does.
I like that. Auto take is strong. But at the same time, it's like I like it that you can take it if you want, because it fits with the theme of what that is. This character, this force swoops in, does different stuff, gets back out.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think there's a wrong detachment for it. Makes sense in even Chaos Cults. It makes sense.
Even if you're playing narrative, they can have their own agenda. That's come in.
Yeah,
so I love it.
Absolutely. Number 3 on this list. As I just said, I mentioned it a bit on number 1. Aeldari is also, I think, back. We'll see in how big a way.
Aeldari never left.
They never really left. They just went through a little redesign stage. They took a month off.
They just had to use a different part of the codex.
A different part of their brain was what they had to do. But they are also back. They got a very nice injection of new models. I think the jury is out on the new detachments. We'll have to see if the new detachments hold enough weight next to Aspect Host, Seer Count, these ones that are already showing they have enough meat on the bone competitively to carry the faction. But I fully expect to see things like Uriel, like Karseth make it into so many detachments across the board. Will this give them enough lift to take them right up to the zenith? Unsure, but they're definitely one to watch, and obviously, in my opinion, going to be on the rise.
I like because you're able to infuse some more fast-moving special weapons into your. I mean, not that Aeldari necessarily struggle with that as a whole, but you get more of them. Like if they were already good, you could do that. And we've seen things like Fire Dragons kind of fall out of favor because of some changes. These let you maybe move in some other weapons plus those scout things what we've talked about and stuff into your army if you'd like to.
Yeah, so the Birdie Jail is back on the table, where you take Swooping Hawks and the new Birdie Boys from the Corsairs, and you just gum up your opponent's whole play. Gum them up and then hit them surgically with things like Jane Zar, Lycus, Fire Dragons. Even Fire Prisms are starting to come back onto the table. So don't be afraid.
And I know we're talking about them being 10 menu, but you can have 5 as well. So it's like you do get a lot of functionality or things with this, and you don't really lose out on the special weapons. Like you still. So we didn't talk about this. How you arm them? You can't have 2 of each of a weapon in there. You have one of each. But there's 2 in there, 2 very potent weapons that do really good damage.
And then they're not, as for skirmishers, they're not bad in combat. 3 attacks each at 4-2-1, perfectly acceptable. That's an Astartes profile, like in combat.
And the ability to fall. So I like when if we're talking about 10 man, you get the fallback abilities. So there's get out of there. So if you have bodies left, you can still maybe use them as you peel off wounds from the ones that don't have those cool special weapons we were talking about. So
Exactly.
they do have some play.
Number 4 on the changes you need to know. We have Scintillating Legion. So the top 3 armies in the game, Scintillating Legion has been the most winning percentile games won since its revamp of any army in the game across the, and it just got hit pretty solidly into the main mechanic of the army. Of course, the main mechanic of the army was indirect fire, using the Infernal Puppeteer plus Kairos Fate Weaver to just lay down a bunch of damage 3 shots from out of line of sight, and then flux tokens to get you through the grind. That usually happens, the press of battle usually happens from turn 3 onwards. Now that Infernal Puppeteer has been significantly nerfed. You need to have line of sight to the unit that you draw line of sight from, and that unit needs to be within 9 of your unit. Now, there's some workarounds. Of course, you can take larger units of things like Screamers, and you can have the tail end of that unit out there and then string all the way up and around. So the unit's within 9, but the tail's looking around a corner. But it's a lot harder to do now. The mechanics of it are a lot more difficult. So I do expect to see a drop-off from the Scintillating Legion numbers in the coming months, which I think people were pretty happy to see. No one's really enjoyed playing against mass high-power indirect fire. I'm happy for Zinch to have nice things. I want Zinch to have very nice things. But we've seen time and time again, uninteractive play patterns will be punished by games work, and this was one of them. Yeah, undeniable.
It gave them an extra turn of shooting at you, and there were some top players out there that were really taking it.
Well, I mean, I saw a game recently by a couple of mates.
I don't mean like taking advantage of it in a bad way, realizing that as an opportunity and making the most of that opportunity.
Yeah, it's more like, so this was kind of the best indirect fire we've seen this game, the most powerful single instance of indirect fire we've seen this game so far. When we had Basilisks and Manticores hitting on 2s re-rolling with indirect fire, but they didn't have baseline 9 shots with sus D3 on that indirect fire, where they can have just this massive ceiling of potential. Like I said, I watched a game by 2 amazing mates of mine that was playing Tyranids versus Scintillating Legion. The dude had old 1-eye and 2 Carnifexes, went first, propped them up behind a wall, dead, turn 1, from out of line of sight. You pop the 3 Screamers, go look around, Fate Weaver and the Puppeteer, dead. And I'm just like, that should not be allowed. All right, on to number 5, last one here. This is Astra Militarum Grizzled Company. Has lost half of its detachment. You will still get your reroll once, and you will still get your extra orders. You will no longer get reroll once to wound when you're targeting, when an ordered unit targets something that.
This is what I was talking about. With some detachments have gotten a little harder to defeat some of these Satan and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so it's very interesting when we talk about Scintillating Legion and Grizzled Company that they were 2 of the contenders up there in that top mix that were giving Catan a hard time and could definitely take wins off them. And now they've been knocked down, but Catan's. So we can only hope that there's more to be revealed, and we'll have to wait and see. No knowledge or assumptions made, but Catan are going to be eating good for a little bit. But Grizzled Company, the changes here, I'm very happy with the changes that they made. I'm happy that that's the portion that they dropped off, because the reroll 1s is active all the time and didn't have the terms and conditions of attacking things on objective. And you have other mechanics in order to hurt things on objective, stuff like that. So compartmentalizing those things, so some detachments have some special stuff, is nice, and there's not so much overlap. And the reroll 1s to hit portion of it, in my opinion, with the ballistic skill availability of Astra Militarum, was already the better portion. There's already the portion I liked. And so I'm down with this, because strength, the strength characteristic of Astra Militarum guns, outside las guns, has never really been the problem. Demolition cannons, anything, any gun apart from the stubbers that comes off at Dawn. I mean, strength 7 in combat.
Don't discount the las guns either. That's number 1 Terminator eradication.
Dude, I've killed Land Raiders this edition with las guns. First rank fire. And off we go. Guard are going to be just fine from this change. I think Grizzled Company is still probably the best detachment they have available to them, but a little bit has been knocked off. So we'll have to see what happens there. The biggest actual negative unit that the biggest unit I think is impacted negatively by this might be the Rough Riders, who were going into things like 10 wounding on 4s, rerolling 1s. Now they're going into 4s, and you're just at the whims of those 4 pluses. Either you hit enough of them on your 10 attacks, or you don't. You're still going to hit on 2s rerolling, which is very nice, but then it's like you put.
Well, it's a whole other level of efficiency, or reliability when you are able to roll the ones.
A little bit of the safety net is gone for the Guard players. I still think their Guard is in a phenomenally strong place. I think they're going to stay more stable to where they still are in the meta, but I do expect Scintillating to drop off a little in them. So recapping that top 5, Catan unchanged, Necron's unchanged. They're going to be They are the meta bully at the moment.
You need a plan.
Don't like using that word, actually. I shouldn't say that one, but they are the meta problem and the thing you need to know and have a plan for. We've seen CSM and Aeldari revitalized in slot number 2 and 3 on the top 5, and then nerfs and changes to Scintillating Legion and Grizzled Company are going to leave a little bit of a hole at the top. That there's some room for other factions to wiggle into. Can't wait to see what the faction and what the meta does in the coming months, and that is your top 5 for this week.
And now you know. All right, everybody, we're going to take another quick break. We'll come back and talk about some hobby segments as you're planning and getting in ready for this weekend. See you in a second, everybody.
You're listening to Forge the Narrative.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on this weekend. Hope everyone is enjoying their weekend and having some cool hobby projects planned. Maybe you're watching some tutorials, and this is going to be part of the subject we're going to be covering in this segment. Tanya, accomplished, well-known painter.
Oh, I guess I technically am an award-winning painter. So yes, I'll take it. Thank you very much. So I was talking to a newer painter who was saying that they were a little bit intimidated to paint one of their models. They're a new painter and they've been watching tutorials, and I think that maybe they put the expectation a little too high on themselves before they even picked up a paintbrush. But it also got me thinking about tutorials. Now, I have watched them in the past, but in general, I'm like the worst tutorial watcher, because I'll watch like the first 2 steps, be like, yeah, I got it. And then I go on my merry way.
I'm one. I'll watch it. I'll rewind it. I'll watch it. I'll think about it. Then I'll go back and watch this one segment. Then I'll paint. Then I'll go back and watch a little segment. That's so the opposite over here.
Yeah. But then I was thinking about all those tutorials, and I thought, there are certain things that you kind of need to have a little bit of an understanding of before you go into those tutorials and you'll have success. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about those today. And the first one is thinning your paints. A tutorial can tell you to thin your paints and can even explain to you how to do it, but you really need to get into your paint collection and a palette if that's how you're choosing to, thin your paints. You can also thin on your brush as well. You really need to get into your collection, and you really need to actually just start working with the paint to determine where you like it. Some paints also work differently. They have different mediums, and also the pigments are milled to different sizes within different paints and different paint lines.
You're talking about the color within the medium of the paint.
Correct.
Is formulated differently for different paints, and so the same way you thin one paint may not be the same way you have to thin another paint to get them to the same spreadability or whatever it is you're looking for.
Correct. Yeah. So some paints really don't need to be thinned that much. Some paints probably need to be thinned a little bit more. And some paints actually won't keep in your wet palette overnight as well, just based on the formulation within the paint that you're using. And no tutorial is going to actually be able to teach you this, unfortunately. So you have to get in there, and I would say just go get some sort of cheap or secondhand models, maybe some D&D minis, and just start working with your paint to figure out where the line is for each type of paint in which you, quote, break your paint, which is when you add too much water, you destroy the surface tension, and now it's going to be really impossible to paint. Nothing is going to teach you more than just experience.
What are some signs that your paint is not thin enough?
That's a great question. I think a sign that your paint is not thin enough is that it leaves like a texture on the model when you try to apply it. Another sign might be that it actually is obscuring the detail on your model as well. And in general, you're not going to be able to move the paint very easily on your primed model as well.
That's a sign for me when I'm having to fight with the perception is I'm having to fight with this paint. And I run into that with metallics more than like the non-metallic paints. And again, probably it's my perception, but I feel like I run into that more with a metallic.
Yeah, I actually think that metallics are a very difficult paint to use. I find that this is one of the paints that doesn't like to be thinned that much, but at the same time, it doesn't like to be used straight out of the pot as well, in which case you've got 2 options. You thin it out very carefully, or like I do, if I've primed black, I'll just dry brush, a heavy dry brush over top, and that will deposit the base coat. Metallics are definitely a tricky color to use.
Just an idea of watching out when you're doing some of the things and the paint starts to take on these characteristics you were just describing. That may be something telling you that you need maybe thin the paint.
Correct. And also, you can tell that you've thinned your paint too much and broke the surface tension. In almost the opposite way, you cannot almost apply the paint because the paint almost looks like oil and water. It kind of just like separates away from itself. So instead of depositing the pigment in a nice even layer, it's just really not depositing the pigment at all, in which case you can either scrap it and start again, or you can try adding more paint to the paint and water mixture and see if you can save it.
I'll go one step further if I can, is that once I've done that to a model, I either wipe it off with my thumb and wait till, and then fix the paint or start over with the paint thing. But
Mhm.
if you try to add more paint to your model with that, I think you're asking.
Right. If you put a very, and this is, you can learn how to glaze in a tutorial, I will say, once you master these core techniques. But if you deposit more paint on top of wet paint, you can sometimes just succeed in removing the pigment and leaving like a big textured mess. So it is a good idea that if you're experiencing problems that you wipe off as much as you can and then wait for it to dry before you try again.
Nice. No,
Yeah.
great. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
Have you come across anything else?
Yeah, so that actually leads into the second thing, which is learning to let the paint do most of the work, right? Every time that you apply a brush stroke through paint on a model, it's a chance for you to create texture as the pigments sort of bind up on one another. If your paint is successfully thinned, you can now use the brush and the paint to almost push the paint into the places that you need it to go. You don't necessarily need to do a whole bunch of brush strokes. And this is what I would consider brush control. Nothing is going to teach you how to have brush control other than just painting a bunch of miniatures. And if that intimidates you with your brand new Warhammer miniatures, then everybody's trying to get rid of secondhand models for dirt cheap. Just go ahead, get some secondhand models that are even already primed and painted because you don't care. You're just using for practice. You don't have to reprime them. You can just start painting over it to try and get really clean delineations between, say, armor and trim, or pushing the paint into crevices instead of trying to like paint it in there. These kind of really easy brush control techniques are very, very difficult to actually teach in a tutorial, but it does become easier to learn just over time with practice.
And I wouldn't put a necessarily a timetable on that where you must be good by a certain time. If you
Mm-mm.
just work at it a little bit over time, it will come easier. That's kind of how I do things. I finally got to I should say finally. I've been this way for a while now, but it took a long time, and with just a little bit of focus on the craft to get to something that I'm pretty proud of what I do, and
Mhm.
I'm happy with how it looks on.
Mhm. And then the other thing that I just don't know if a tutorial, I've ever seen a tutorial that really is able to teach somebody this, is like color theory, but in a way that you like, right?
Now
So
that you want to do is that.
exactly. Like you can go through the color wheel and all the color theory and things, and you could follow a step-by-step tutorial. That's great. But at the same time, I think that there's something really valuable about just sitting with your paint collection and a bunch of minis that you don't are not emotionally invested in at all, and just playing with different paint colors to determine what is your style. What do you like? We live in a world of tutorials and well, you must do this or this is the rule. I think it's great to learn the rules so that you can break them. Because at the end of the day, you really want to just create something that you think is cool.
Mhm.
And nothing is cooler than having your own style. And the only way you're going to develop that is really by painting a ton of stuff.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. Look, we'll take that. Things you cannot learn in a tutorial. Just got to do yourself, or know that it's okay that you're experimenting. It doesn't look exactly like it may have looked there can look however you want it to on your own tabletop. Some great tips, Tanya. Thank you so much. That is our show this week. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit all the buttons. That's the way. Leave some comments. Tells the aggregators to let people come and see what we're doing as well. I really appreciate that. Adam had to get back to his real life. It is the other side of the planet for where he is. Red will be back with us at some point as well. He's on assignment and is also in different time zones, but we're juggling to making it happen. Let us know what's up in the comments below. Tanya, it's a pleasure as always talking to you. I'll see you next week.
We'll see everybody.
Our craft worlds are sentient beings. These hosts are not. Better luck next time, monkeys!